Hello. So basically, in this stream, I need to get a little more light here. Um, Hopefully, this will work better. But yeah, basically, in this stream, I wanted to talk a little bit about PlayStation 5 and the fact that it's been out for about 2 weeks now, and just kind of my overall impressions of PlayStation 5 so far in terms of the games I have played, and kind of what I'm getting here through the rest of the year, as well as just what I've thought of the system itself and the controller. So I got the PlayStation 5 on launch. It's been, like I said, about 2 weeks. It'll be 2 weeks on Thursday. And I've been enjoying it a lot. I've been two games so far. I beat Astro's Playroom, which is a pre-installed game that comes with the system that basically shows off the features of the controller. And the game's a lot of fun. I would actually be willing to pay for a game like it. It is short though; it's only about 3-4 hour game. There are collectibles I still can do. I can still go back to and do to add a little more. Excuse me, add a little more gameplay into that. And then I also beat Miles Morales, Spider-Man Miles Morales. Also, a lot shorter than the original Spider-Man game, but again, a lot of that was on PS4, but a lot of fun and kind of a bridge between when we get the full-fledged sequel, which I think will be 2022 is my guess, with getting news about it and official confirmed announcement next year is my guess at some point, even if it's late next year that we get that announcement. But yeah, those are the two games I beat so far: Astro's Playroom and Spider-Man Miles Morales. Excuse me. Astro's Playroom, like I said, pre-installed game, short game, but it really shows off the controller as well. The haptic feedback and the rumble are the two big things that have been talked about a lot and with the PlayStation 5 controller, and they're hard to really explain. It's really one of those things that you have to play yourself to really understand. It's not something that's easy to describe like graphics or story or music or whatnot, but it's very different. The thing is, when you look at Rumble, you've had Rumble in controllers in some capacity for a long time, really since I believe the N64, the Rumble pack, which was like the mid 90s or so. And I don't remember if PlayStation 1 had Rumble or if they added that with PlayStation 2. But either way, since around the mid 90s, you've had Rumble. And since then, in the 25 years or so, I felt like it's always kind of felt the same. Nintendo with the Switch came out with what they call HD Rumble. And I remember there being a lot of hype behind it, and having a Switch and playing the Switch a good amount, I feel like it really doesn't feel any different. So I feel like that didn't live up to the hype, which is why with PlayStation 5's controller, the Rumble I felt like would be the same sort of thing. They would be hyped and not live up to it. But after playing Astro's Playroom, definitely can see the possibilities it brings, and it is a lot different. For example, in Astro's Playroom, there's a part where you're in like a tornado going around, and you can actually, the way the rumble like is in the controller, you can actually kind of feel it going in the controller from like left to right instead of just kind of a stationary position where you feel it, rumbling. It kind of gives you that more of that sensation you're actually going around in the wind like that. That was a good example. The fact that there's different areas in the game with kind of different land, if you will, such as there's one area where you're kind of in some mud and you can actually feel like how when you're going through the mud and it like slows you down, you can actually feel like kind of that sensation of there being kind of, you're not going through it as smoothly as you normally would. The other two examples are, there is an area where you're in like snow, walking in snow, and you can actually feel kind of like that resistance that you would feel when you walk, in deep snow, and you can't walk like you normally would. You kind of have that pressure on you. You can actually feel like that sensation. Then the one that I was the most impressed with in Astro's Playroom when it comes to the rumble is there's an area where you're basically flying on with like kind of like a spaceship jetpack type thing, and the wind, the wind that's like blowing down down below you to like push you up, and how it would kind of pulsate or whatever. You can actually feel on the triggers, you can actually feel the trigger kind of going like that, stimulating the wind kind of pushing back at you, and it just feels very intuitive and very different than anything I've ever felt on a controller before. So that one I was really impressed with. And then lastly, kind of going with the trigger, but not so much the rumble. They talked about, but there is a part in an Astros Playroom where you're with a bow and arrow, and when you push the trigger, you can definitely feel like a tension on the trigger, such as when you pull back a bow and arrow like that, and you can feel like the pull back or whatever, the string. You can definitely feel that. So that was really good. And as a whole, that game is just very entertaining. Has really good music. The levels are creative. A lot of whole game is basically a montage of Sony's history where you find different things. Where you find like the PlayStation 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and you find things like memory cards and clouds of shaped like controllers. So really it's just kind of a love letter, you could say, to Sony's history, but not like in a cheesy way. As the levels are just a lot of fun, as well as all the control stuff. And it'll be interesting to see what they do going forward with that, with other games. I know Ratchet and Clank, which comes out next year, there's been talk about with the triggers, with one of the guns, that you, depend on like how long you hold it, the sensation will be different, and you can shoot like 1 or 3 bullets at once, depending on how long you hold on to it, and it'll feel different. But yeah, that's Astro's Playroom. I'd like to see a full-fledged, like longer game at some point, sequel kind of, if you will, going for that. I know there's also Astro's VR game on PlayStation 4. Heard it was one of the better VR games. Haven't played it though. Don't have a VR. But yeah, that's Astro's Playroom. Moving on to Spider-Man Miles Morales. Miles Morales, I enjoyed. I do like the Spider-Man PS4 game more. I think more so because the story in Spider-Man PS4 I thought was better. The game's longer, and also more villains. Miles Morales really only, and more emotional story. Miles Morales is really, you only have 3 main villains. Really only have 3 villains in the game as a whole. 4, I guess, if you want to count one of the characters that I won't spoil. That's kind of, you could say, kind of like a villain, but at the same time he's trying to help you, but maybe it goes about it the wrong way type of thing. So a lot less villains. Spider-Man PS4 had a lot more, but at the same time, the game is still a lot of fun. The Venom attacks add a lot to the combat. Compared to the PS4 one, you take that away, the combat would be pretty much the same. So the Venom attacks add kind of a new flair to the combat. The web swinging feels faster than the PS4 game, which is good. I think when we get a Spider-Man 2 full-fledged sequel, I feel like the web swinging will be even faster, in part because of the fact that it'll be made most likely from the ground up on PS5. It won't be a cross-gen game like Miles Morales was. And so having that SSD and not being held back by past tech, I think they'll go even faster with the web swinging. I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, the web swinging faster. The combat with the Venom blast adds a lot. Some of the side stuff is kind of different and new. One of the side missions type structure I liked in Miles Morales is where you basically find helicopter or whatever, and you hack satellites or whatever. You have to go to that area and like fight some people and take the satellite back, if you will. So that was good. The story, like I said, I don't like as much as the PS4 one, but it was still good and still had some nice emotional parts. Didn't make me cry like the PS4 one did, though, but still a good, effective story, and still has some nice touching moments. There's a few parts where you get some flashbacks that were kind of cool, and some interesting things that happen with some of the flashback scenes, certain people you necessarily weren't expecting, that I thought was pretty cool. But all in all, Miles Morales, good game. I'm hoping, because it was a shorter game, and I understand it was a shorter game, even beforehand it was said it was going to be, and the fact that it was like $20 less than your typical game kind of made sense. It had been compared to Uncharted Lost Legacy. And it really, when you think about it, was about 2 years from PS4 Spider-Man game, so it wouldn't really make too much sense to get like a long game for that, for a sequel or for Miles Morales after not being that long. But at the same time, I would still like to see some sort of DLC for Miles Morales, even if it's just like a 1-2 hour long free story DLC expansion type thing, even though it's still pretty short, but just add a little bit more to it and maybe some more suits. There's a lot less suits in the game, but at the same time, it also makes sense because you have to remember Miles Morales as a character has only been around for about a decade. Peter Parker, on the other hand, has been around since, I believe, 1962. So you're talking about 58 years or so. Big difference, it's 48-year difference or so, 48 years difference or so from the original. So big difference. A lot more time for him to get different suits and stuff and different villains and all that. So in a lot of ways it makes sense, but I would still like to see something like that. Or I even wonder if they would maybe, as like a free DLC, do something kind of like Ghost of Tsushima, where Ghost of Tsushima has an online multiplayer where you basically can be 2 people or 4 people, and either do like kind of like a story thing with the 2 people, or with the 4 you do kind of a survival, go through waves. Like I almost wonder if they would even do something like that as like a DLC with a survival thing, like a Ghost of Tsushima, where basically you would have, say, Miles Morales and Peter, where you could play as one of them or whatever, and play either online, or maybe even if it's not online, maybe just have something where you can play as the 2 and do kind of like almost like a wave combat thing. Think of like the Batman Arkham games where you had combat challenges. Maybe add something like that, but where you can play as the 2 of them. Even though I know it's not like a ton of people to pick from, it would still be something to kind of have them both together, because in the game they were together a little bit, but not a lot. And I expect going forward for the next Spider-Man game, that's going to be a big focus, I think, is those 2 characters, Peter and Miles, being together a lot. And I'm not sure exactly how they're going to balance that in the sequel. One thing I definitely think in the sequel is we'll see something similar to Batman Arkham Knight, where you can be fighting with each other, or be fighting besides each other and kind of switch between each other to do finishes. Dual Takedown is what it was called in Batman Arkham Knight. Is a really cool feature in Arkham Knight, but was underused big time. It's something I was hoping they would bring back if they did another Arkham game, but unfortunately the next Arkham game looks like they basically totally changed the combat, unfortunately. But yeah, that's my thought on Spider-Man. So those are the 2 games I've been so far. Right now I have Watchdog Legions coming in the mail. That should be here tomorrow. Thought it would be here today, but not a big deal. Still got other games to play on other systems as well, such as Age of Calamity on the Switch. I've been playing, but going back to PlayStation here, PlayStation 5. Watchdog Legions I have coming. I've never played any of the Watchdog games. The first 2 didn't interest me personally. This one, Watchdog Legions, the third one, from what I've seen, it looked a lot cooler, more interesting than the first 2, but I've been hearing mixed things about it, so it does have me worried a little bit. But was able to order it on Best Buy. The PS5 version came out today on disc. You could get the upgrade with the patch on PS4, basically, version on PS5. But yeah, I'm waiting for that to come. So that will be, once I get that, that will be my 3rd physical game I own to go with Sackboy, Spider-Man, and then it'd be that. Sackboy. So yeah, Watchdog Legions I'm just kind of waiting for right now. So I can't say too much about that other than the fact that I am a little worried. But I got it from, like I was going to say, kind of rambling on here. But from Best Buy, I got it for $30, the PS5 version. Plus you get a $10 voucher, basically credit type thing, if you pre-ordered it, which I did a few days before it came out. So really, it's like I'm only paying $20 for it. So very, good price. You typically have to wait a long time if you're going to get a game for less than 20. Games do go and sell pretty often, down from the 60 or the now 70 the games that typically cost. But to get down below 20, you usually have to wait a while. Usually you can get games at 30 or 40. Ghost of Tsushima, for example, right now is at 40, and it's been out since, I'm trying to remember if that was July, I believe it came out. Maybe June. I don't remember now. I think it was July. No, it was June. Yeah, it was June, I believe, that Ghost of Tsushima came out, and it's went down $20 since then. So $20 in 5 months or so. But yeah, so that, when I get that, like I said, that'll be my 3rd physical game to go with Sackboy and Spider-Man. Sackboy I played a little bit of. Never really played the Little Big Planet games, but I figured I'd give Sackboy a chance because from what I've seen, it's gotten good, not great, but good reviews. It's like an 80 on Metacritic, and I tend to like platformers a lot. And I feel like platformers are the one thing that Sony is kind of missing in a sense, because Nintendo's like the king of platformers, with Donkey Kong and Mario and whatnot. But yeah, Sony, I feel like that's one thing they could perhaps improve on is platformers. But yeah, Sackboy I've played a little bit of, not enough to really make a overall big impression, negatively or positively on me. Per about an hour on it, be a few levels. The one thing that does stand out, the music is pretty good, which is nice. The game does seem pretty easy so far, but again, I'm pretty early in the game, and I know that it's not going to be like a Donkey Kong level hardness when it comes to platforming. And Sackboy, it's not what I'm expecting. I do hope it'll get a little bit harder though, because I don't want it to be like Kirby level easy. Like Kirby was always considered very easy, and Donkey Kong was always considered really hard. If we could get kind of in the middle there, I'd be fine with that. So that's one thing I'm kind of looking forward to on that. But yeah, enjoying the music so far. It's about all I can really say. The visuals look pretty nice. So yeah, that's about all I can say on that one. So going forward, like I said, those are the 3 games I currently own. If you want to count Astrobot, the pre-install game, then I own 4 games on PS5. My 5th game will be the Pathless / Immortals. I forget what they call that game now. It was Gods and Monsters. I keep wanting to just call it that. Now it's Immortals something or another. Has a very Zelda Breath of the Wild vibe to it, both in like the gameplay, the art style, and whatnot. It just looks like a really good Ubisoft game. And I'm not the hugest Ubisoft fan. Like I've never really played Assassin's Creed franchise, for example. But that game looks really good. And the more I've seen of it, the better it's looked. I know they've already talked about their post-release DLC plans for that game as well. So yeah, that and the Pathless will be like my 5th and 6th games. Just depends on kind of which one comes sooner. The Pathless is actually already out, but digitally, and I prefer always getting things physically. The physical version comes out December 8th, I believe, is when it's going to start getting shipped, and around then for the Pathless. The other game, Immortals, I believe is December 3rd. So yeah, I think it'll be getting Immortals first. And but that will get up to 6 games. Like I said, looking forward to Immortals a lot. The Pathless, I'm looking forward to. It looks very different. It's by an independent developer. I don't play a ton of independent developer games. There are some I like that I've played, and some that have interested me or whatever, but not usually into them. But the Pathless looks very different and interesting. Basically, in the Pathless, you don't have your typical map that you typically have in like open world games. It's more of just you have like item or something that kind of changes the color of like what you see in the distance and stuff to show if you've been there or something, but you don't have like your general map. And then the other thing with the Pathless is the way you get around is very different and unique. Basically, you're shooting targets to get around and keep your speed going. It just looks very different. I've heard good things about the soundtrack too, which is nice. Music is always something I appreciate in video games, and one of the reasons I love Nintendo, especially, is I feel like the king of soundtracks. But yeah, you get around shooting targets. Basically, there are some puzzles you solve. There's some bosses you fight too, and yeah, it just looks like an interesting game. So that by the end of the year, that's likely what I'm going to have for PS5 is those. So I'll basically, to recap, I'll basically have Sackboy, Spider-Man, Watch Dogs, Immortals, and the Pathless. So that'll be 5 physical games, and then Astrobot, the pre-install game. And then I did get with Spider-Man Miles Morales. I got the Spider-Man remaster from 2018 game, which is digital only. So I'll basically have 5 physical games, 2 digital only games for 7 total games. I feel like next year is going to be the big year for PS5 though, because when you look at next year, you're going to have Ratchet and Clank. It's looking like Gran Turismo 7, Horizons Forbidden West, the Horizon Zero Dawn was actually my favorite PS4 exclusive, so I'm looking forward to the sequel big time. And we may even get God of War. So may, because it's listed as 2021, but I think it's going to end up being delayed till 2022. But yeah, if I have 7 games by the end of the year, and the first few months, even though they've pretty much all the games are cross-gen, like even the Pathless is PS4 and PS5, but I still feel like that's a pretty good start to the gen, and it's nice to have the system because I don't want to have trouble getting it once Ratchet and Clank does come out early next year. I don't want to have trouble finding the system, so I'm glad to have it now. Plus, it's just nice to get the best versions, basically, of these games. Because all the games that are on PS4 and PS5, obviously the PS4 version is not going to load quite as quick. It's not going to look quite as nice as the PS5 version. So that's kind of a benefit of having the system too, is getting the best version of each game. And so then when I look at early next year, Ratchet and Clank and Kenya Bridge of Spirits is basically the 2 games on my radar for early next year to get me up to 9 games. But yeah, I'm kind of going on a little too much about the games themselves. There I have played or are going to play soon. So I kind of wanted to move on to just impressions of the system itself in terms of the way the system works and everything. So one thing I've noticed on the system is, besides, the size of the system is obviously something that's been talked about a lot. It is big. I still am not a big fan of the way the system looks itself in terms of the color scheme and everything. But, I'd like a black console, I think, rather than the white on the outside. But it's still not a big issue, really, at the end of the day. There's bigger things to worry about than how a system looks. It's not like you're looking at the system all the time. And the nice thing too is that it's backwards compatible with PS4, and now I don't need my 4K player plugged in either. So I was able to unplug those 2 things, have my PS4 games on my external HD hard drive. So that saves space, because even still with that, I still have currently 9 things basically that can use a HDMI input, and I only have 8 HDMI inputs, even with having like a 5 import connect thing to the other HDMI. So I still have to have 1 thing unplugged, which right now I have is my GameCube being unplugged. Because unfortunately too, the new TVs don't tend to have the old inputs, the old HDMI inputs. But so that's nice. But yeah, with the system, the thing I've noticed so far is that there was a lot of talk about PS4 and the system being loud. I personally never had that much of an issue with the system being loud. I never had a Pro though, and from what I've heard, people complained about the noise of the PlayStation 4 Pro a lot more than they did the original PlayStation 4 or the original. But I've owned PlayStation 3, 4, and 5. And PlayStation 3 original I found to be super loud, very loud. The fat PS3, very loud, to the point where it's almost like the way a lot of people talked about the PlayStation 4 in terms of how I felt about the fat PS3. The slim PS3 was like the complete opposite. The slim PS3, I couldn't hear anything coming from it. You couldn't even tell it was on. It was so quiet. The PS4 I felt like was kind of in the middle. I have the PS4 Slim. I had the original PS4 traded in when there was a trade-in stuff going on in the sale and whatnot, because I didn't have to pay that much for it. Plus I needed a new controller anyway, and I tend to feel like I have bad luck when it comes to systems breaking on me, as I've had a PlayStation 3 that got the LI death after about 2.5 years, and it happened when I wasn't even playing for a long period of time. I just turned the system on and played for 20 minutes, and it happened. And I've had a Wii that basically the controller would not connect anymore, / my character would try to move when I'm not doing anything. And then I've had 2 GameCubes that have stopped reading disc. My third one I feel like is kind of getting to that point. So I just feel like I have bad tech luck. But yeah, with the sound of the system, like I said, PS3, I felt like the original was very loud. The Slim, no noise. PS4, I felt like with both the Slim and the normal were in the middle, where it was definitely louder than the PS3 Slim, but it was definitely quieter than the PS3 Fat. The PS5, I kind of feel like is back to kind of how the PS3 Slim was, where I basically don't hear any noise. You can hear the you can hear the disk drive a little bit, like at first, kind of when you put a game in, for the first few seconds or so, where I guess it's checking for the disc or whatever. But other than that, like, I don't hear anything coming from it. Like I've had it on for a good amount of time before too, and not being able to hear it. And then the system itself, I feel like stays pretty cool as well, because I've had the system. I don't get to play like a ton like I used to when I was younger. It's rare I get those stretches where I can play a game for 6-7 hours straight or anything like that. I have a lot more of those like 1, 2, 3 hour sessions, but I've had a couple times where I think I had one time where I played for like 5 hours straight. And afterwards I checked the system, and the system was still pretty cool. Like, it wasn't hot at all. For running a decent amount of time, so that's impressive. I think the fact that the system's pretty quiet, doesn't seem to generate a lot of heat. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on that. Then the last thing I can kind of say in terms of the system itself is more so the system UI and like the features of the system itself. So the UI I'm not crazy about. I kind of feel like the UI in the PS4 was cooler looking. I do like the music that like first comes on when you first turn the system on. Is kind of cool. But the way it's set up itself, I kind of prefer the PS3 layout more. And also, I kind of feel like the UI is or the features on the system itself are a little bit lacking right now. There's some things that PS4 could do that you don't have on PS5, which I'm hoping will come back with firmware upgrades and stuff. For example, I'm pretty sure that communities are not a thing on PS5, which is a disappointment. Communities, for people that haven't done it, haven't joined them, basically what it is for different games, people have made communities and you can select them for the different games, where basically you go and you join the community, and then you can post like photos from the game, or you can just comment, just say this game sucks, this game's good, or whatever, just overall. So it's kind of like a forum in a sense, where you can post little like comments, photos, that kind of thing. It's just kind of a cool thing to have, to see what other people are saying about the game, as well as seeing photos that people have taken, because photos have become a big thing too nowadays, because the graphics on games have gone so advanced and so good. And games have photo mode, where you can like pause the game and zoom in more and change angles and different things. So you can do a lot with that nowadays. And so not having the communities where people can post photos and comments and stuff is kind of a disappointment. Also, I don't believe there's like a theme section right now. That's kind of something I even felt like took a step back on PS4 from 3. Was on PS4 there was like a lot of or PS3 there was a lot of themes you could find online. There was like a site for themes. That wasn't really a thing on PS4. On PS5 right now, I don't even see a way to change a theme at all whatsoever. So that's kind of a disappointment. So yeah, the themes, what was I saying? The themes and the themes and yeah, I don't remember now. Sorry. Been a long day. But yeah, the themes not being there is kind of a disappointment. The other thing is I've noticed that's not there for some reason is when on PlayStation 5 games, when you click on the game or whatever, like on PS4, for example, I don't remember if it had it on PS3 or not. I don't think it did. But on PS4, you could look at update history basically. and it would show like a list of the different patches for a game and like kind of what was added, changed, improved, if you will. For PS4 games, it still has that, but for PS5, it doesn't have the updated history. So basically, like if you're playing a game and you're at, say, patch 1.1 or whatever, to actually know what that did, you'd have to actually go on a phone online or a computer or whatever, rather than it just being right there. So that's kind of a disappointment. Hopefully they, bring that back for, that type of thing. So yeah, that's kind of a disappointment. So that's why I say I feel like some of the features are kind of missing that should be there, but hopefully they'll get added back. On the positive side, though, I do like that when you're on the UI and you have like you're on a game, whatever, but haven't actually clicked to play it or yet or whatever, that you get to hear like kind of like the theme music from the game, just to get you kind of pumped is a cool thing. So I like that. I also like that they added kind of like the Switch has, where you have a counter for how many hours you've played on a game. They have that on the PS5. And it's by hour, where the Switch is actually by every 5 hours. So it's even more. So you get even a better idea on how many hours you played. And that's just a feature I liked on the Switch a lot. So having that here and by every hour instead of 5 is nice. The one disappointment regarding that, though, is that it does keep track of PS4 games as well. But it appears that the PS4 games time that you've spent on a game is bugged. And the reason I say that is, for example, when the system first came out and I was first looking at that, on Horizon Zero Dawn, it said I had played like 117 hours or something, 120, somewhere around 117, 120, which was a little higher than I thought. I thought it was more like 95 or something. But this is the reason I know that's bugged for sure, is that it said I had like 120. Like a week later, when I was going through kind of just looking at that stuff again, all of a sudden it said I had like 170. So somehow it said I had gained like 50 hours when I hadn't even touched the game. Because the last time I played Horizon Zero Dawn was, I'm not sure, it was a few months back. I did like a second playthrough. I'd only ever done really one playthrough, and I was doing a second playthrough to try and do side stuff. I still haven't 100% Horizon. I've done a lot, but not 100% it. But yeah, anyway, it somehow added like 50 hours to my game time without me touching the game. So that shows that the PS4 hour amount is definitely bugged. I don't know if that will get fixed or not, but the fact that it does seem to be accurate on PS4 5 games is at least a good thing. So that's a positive for the system. One thing I've noticed, kind of going back to the negatives, not trying to sound too negative, but I have heard a lot of people saying that they're having the system crash on you. And I kind of feel like I'm getting some of that a little bit more than maybe in the past, which is a little bit of a disappointment. At the same time, I know you're always going to have some launch day bugs, and even just things that have been out for a while, technology-wise, you're going to have some issues, because no like electronic is 100% reliable. And even if only 3% or 2% or whatever, or people are having issues, when you factor in several million, that's going to come out to like 100,000 people or something. So, and I feel like that's kind of vocal minority of talking about those issues, but I have had some of that. I had the worst, I would say, and which kind of worried me, was when I went to watch Netflix. And I know you can watch Netflix like on your TV, smart TV, and I do have a smart TV. But it's nice to watch like Netflix, Disney Plus, stuff like that on PlayStation 5, because I think you get 4K, and I don't think you do with my TV streaming app, even though my TV's not that old. I think you get more like the 1080p, and even I'm not 100% sure on that, but even if not, the big thing is I've noticed is I feel like it's easier to navigate the streaming platforms with the PlayStation controller rather than your TV remote. But yeah, anyway, when I went to try to watch Netflix and first tried to load it up or whatever, basically my system like turned itself off. And then I turned it back on, and it said something about the USB drive or something needed to be repaired. It did that. Looked like it was about to work again, and then basically I was still having issues. Like it did that and basically like turned itself off again. So in a sense, you could say like turned itself off twice in a row. And at that point, I was like, "Oh crap, maybe I'm gonna have to return the system already." Then I was able to I forget exactly what I did, but I turned it back on, and then it worked after it went through that again. So, but the fact that it had basically what seemed like two turn itself off in a row situations, and the database thing worried me, especially because I wasn't even like playing anything. I literally was just trying to get to Netflix when that happened. So that was kind of scary type of thing. And then I have had Spider-Man once like freeze, completely freeze, not like the system itself freeze, but the game freeze, where I had to basically back out, close the application, and then go back in, and then it worked fine. So yeah, I have had a little bit of issues with that. The ability to transfer your PS4 games to the hard drive seems pretty simple, and I was able to do that, which is nice. One thing I'm hoping with Sony is that they'll come out with the SSD expansion list of what SSDs work on PlayStation 5 pretty soon, because that's definitely going to be something you have to worry about. Back on like PlayStation 3, there was plenty of hard drive space. It was like 160 gigabytes, but back then it went a long way because games didn't have to be installed. There was a few that did, but most didn't. And so most of your data, most of your info or that was being saved was just the game saves, which takes up way less space than actual games itself. But starting with PS4, that became an issue when everything had to be installed. Like, for example, I have like a 2 terabyte hard drive. I've used like 1.5 terabytes on it. The original PlayStation 4 only had like 500 gigabytes, way less. That's like a third of what I've basically needed at this point because I had PS5. Most likely any game forward other than maybe Psychonauts, because Psychonauts I think is still just a current or a PS4 game, not a PS5 game. But other than that, probably any game I get that's a PS4 game, I'll just get the PS5 version going forward, which means I probably won't have to use more of that 2 terabyte external hard drive that I got for PlayStation 5. And unfortunately, I had the internal hard drive, not the external, so I had to buy another hard drive for the PlayStation 5 since it doesn't use the normal hard drive inside. It uses the SSD. So that was like an extra $70 that it cost me. But unfortunately, it's too bad I didn't have, like I said, the external on my PS4, because then I wouldn't have had to buy another hard drive. But the SSDs, the thing with the SSD and the hard drive space and everything is that the system has 825 gigabytes of space, but that's before the operating system and everything. You actually only get 667 gigabytes of hard drive space, which in this day and age is like nothing. I have currently only installed right now on my system Astrobot, Miles Morales, the Spider-Man remaster, and Sackboy. And with just those 4 games, I think I'm at 470 gigabytes or so. With some of the other games coming out, it probably won't take too long until I need until I need that like expansion. And SSDs are a lot more expensive than regular hard drives. So it'll be interesting to see when Sony does announce like what SSDs will work. What will the prices be? From what I've been hearing, it's probably for a 2 terabyte hard drive, and it costs you around 250 bucks, something like that. But don't know for sure because the SSDs in the PS5 are also really, really fast, which means they're going to be a little more expensive than other ones out there. But basically, yeah, I'm hoping to get that info soon and that they go down in price relatively quick, because I would like to get around a 2 terabyte hard drive just to try and make sure I have enough space with SSD. And I would like to get a 2 terabyte SSD and not have to pay much more than about 100, which might be a while. But the positive part that at the same time, though, is I guess because it's a add-on type thing. You're not replacing it like you are if you put a hard drive inside the PS4, which means that basically you would get to keep the 667 gigabytes plus whatever else you're putting in there. So if you get a 2 terabyte, you would really have the 2 terabyte plus the 665. So you'd still actually have like something like 2.665 gigabytes or terabytes of space. But yeah, I just want to make sure I have enough space going forward, and it's not something I have to worry about. Yeah, type of thing. Yeah, this video has gone long. I wasn't really sure how long it would be. But the last thing I wanted to kind of get into, because I feel like I've already gotten into like the controller and impressions of the games I played and a little bit of the system itself in terms of features and stuff. The last thing I kind of wanted to get into was its backwards compatibility that the system has. It can play PS4 games. It cannot play PS3, 2, or 1. I wish it could. That'd be awesome. But it can play PS4 games, which is nice. And so far, I've only tried so far I've played 2 games technically on PlayStation 5 that were PS4 games. I got the disc. I always prefer disc. The only time I get digital of anything is when it's the only option. So I do have a few digital games on different systems, but that's rare. And I always try to. Oh, thank you for subscribing. That's nice. Always can use more subscribers, as I meant. One thing I'm gonna, before I get kind of the backwards compatibility here, going off track a little bit, but I'm gonna try to stream more gameplay on YouTube. I was trying to subscribe a little bit on, or what? Subscribe, excuse me. I was trying to stream a little bit on Twitter, or not Twitter. Not Twitter, Twitch. Sorry, Twitter. Twitch. I was trying to stream some on Twitch, but one thing I've noticed, I don't know how long ago they did this, but apparently now videos only stick for like 14 days or something, and then they get deleted, which I don't like. Now, the positive with, I feel like with Twitch is that it's more for video games, and so I feel like your videos aren't going to get lost in there necessarily as much. As they will on YouTube, because YouTube, you have videos of everything that you can possibly think of out there. So that's the kind of the disadvantage with YouTube, is that there's more to kind of weed through to find people, or especially, because I think a lot of people typically, when they look at YouTube too, try to look at videos that have a lot of views or a lot of subscribes, rather than finding videos that have low subscribes, low views type of thing. But I like the fact that with YouTube, your videos just stay there, where with Twitch, it seems like it only stays for 2 weeks and then it's gone. So it's kind of unfortunate. So I think because of that, I'm going to try to do more YouTube streams for PlayStation 5 / PlayStation 4 games rather than Twitch. I might still use Twitch some. But yeah, and I will put my Twitch link in the comments here in a little bit when I get a chance, just so it's there. I have streamed a little bit on Twitch with PlayStation 5 so far. Haven't really done on YouTube, but yeah, I think I'm going to go more to YouTube. So far, in terms of what I have streamed on PlayStation 5, I've streamed Spider-Man. I don't think I did the whole entire. I'm not sure what the next time is exactly. I'm probably in a stream on YouTube a little after this video is done. I still got to take a shower after I finish this video. But yeah, I'm probably stream on there. I'll leave that in the comments as well when I finish with this video. But in terms of what I have streamed so far for PlayStation 5, I've streamed Spider-Man, Miles Morales. I don't remember how much of it I did. I know I streamed a little bit from both my first playthrough and my second playthrough. I don't think I did a whole entire complete playthrough on there, unfortunately, because, just sometimes hanging out with friends and playing the game with them and not necessarily streaming and stuff. But yeah, I did that. I streamed a little bit of Sackboy, Astrobot. I think I streamed when I first was playing it, but not like towards the end and stuff. I was more at a friend's house when I did that and beat it. But yeah, I do plan on streaming a lot here. That's nice that you like Sackboy. I like the music so far. That's the one thing I can say about Sackboy so far. I haven't played it enough to really say too much about that. But anyway, in terms of streaming, that's kind of what I have streamed. I also started streaming. This is kind of what I'm currently working on, which goes into the backwards compatibility that I was going to talk about here, which is I started streaming The Last Guardian last night for about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, something like that. I'll probably do that here in a little bit after this video is done. But yeah, the two games because The Last Guardian, the worst con of the PlayStation 5, probably just the size of the system right now. I mean, it's hard to say. This, being the system's still pretty new. Yeah, I'd say probably the size of the system. But yeah, with backwards compatibility, trying to finish my last thoughts here. With backwards compatibility, I've played 2 games so far. I played Ghost of Tsushima. Haven't played enough to really comment on the difference between that and PlayStation 4. I never had a Pro, so I'm going from the 4 to I'm going from PlayStation 4 to the 5 I have. I never played the Pro. I do have a 4K TV, but because I never had the Pro, the 5 is my first experience playing games in 4K, which by itself makes the system look pretty nice in terms of the graphics and everything. And the jump from, just going from 1080p to 4K is a big jump, obviously, in graphics. But yeah, the 2 games. So Ghost of Tsushima, I beat a while back, started a second playthrough, got kind of burned out on it, went and played some other games. I do want to get back to it. I also took a break in a sense where I was still playing the game, but I was playing more of the online than the single player on Ghost of Tsushima. But when I started a second playthrough, I got to almost the end of Act 1. And that was trying to do all side missions. First time I did like nothing. The online play on that game is amazing too, even though I'm not like an online gamer at all, typically. But yeah, anyway, I got to play that more on PS5 before I can really say how much difference I see between the PS5 and the PS4 version. Haven't played it enough to really say overall. But like I said, The Last Guardian's the other one with backwards compatibility I started. And that's what I really wanted to talk about for the most part on backwards compatibility, because I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to stream that more. I don't know who's all played The Last Guardian, but The Last Guardian is a game that came out in 2016, and I feel like is one of the more underrated PS4 games. And the reason I say that is because, there's PS5 games that people always talk about, such as, Spider-Man, Horizon, God of War, games like that. They got amazing reviews, sold a ton. Just sold a ton, got great reviews, maybe won awards, stuff like that. Last Guardian got good reviews, but it didn't get like out of this world reviews. I think it sold relatively well for what it was trying to do in a sense, but no, it's not a game that sold, 20 million, 10 million, 15 million, anything like that. But The Last Guardian, I feel like is an underrated game. It had some flaws. It was in development for a long, long, long time. It was supposed to be a PS3 game originally, became a PS4 game. You can kind of see that a little bit in both like the controls, the graphics, the gameplay, really everything a little bit. Like it doesn't look bad or anything. It looks good, but it doesn't look, like a God of War or Spider-Man, stuff like that. But The Last Guardian and the camera was really annoying, and the so I'm not trying to sound too negative, but the camera is really annoying, and it had a lot of frame rate drops. The Last Guardian did. Now, obviously, you can't fit a camera with just simply playing it on a different system. Like something like a camera, you'd have to remake the game, basically, type of thing, remaster, remake, that type of thing. But the frame rate is something I was looking at, which is the frame rate on The Last Guardian dropped a lot. I'm not someone that's huge on frame rate. Like it's important, yeah, sure. But personally, I can't tell the difference between 60 and 30. 60 frames per second, 30 frames per second, it looks the same to me. I've seen breakdowns, side-by-side breakdowns and stuff. I can't tell the difference at all. My main thing, though, is whether a game is running 60 or 30 is just how consistent is it. If you're playing a game and it's going from 60 to like 50 and then 55 and then 45 and then 45 to 50, that type of thing. Or if you're playing a game that's going from 30 to 20 to 25 to 15, something like that, then you have a big issue. And that's the thing with The Last Guardian on PS4 was it did that a lot. It was like a 30 frame per game, 30 frames per second target, but a lot of times it would go to 25 to 20, then from like 20 to 30. It just bounced around a lot. And at times it would even go really low. Like at times it would get down to like 15 frames per second at like really bad times. So it just jumped a lot. So that was something I was curious about because I had heard that it plays a lot better on PlayStation 5. Now, I had heard if you play the unpatched version of Last Guardian that that it runs at 60 frames per second. Now, however, the problem with that is that, of course, things always try to download if you are connected to the internet at all. The other problem is I don't know exactly what it was, but I remember hearing that The Last Guardian, if you played it unpatched, that it had some bug issues where certain areas of the game would like crash. So you kind of need the patch. With the patch, the game runs at 30 apparently. But the main thing I've noticed with playing it is that it's a smooth 30 frames per second now. I played, like I said, about 3.5 hours the other night of The Last Guardian, and I didn't see like one frame rate drop at all. So that was the main thing and why I'm impressed with the backwards compatibility with The Last Guardian, at least, is the fact that you are now getting really, really smooth, consistent 30 frames per second on a game that before was jumping up and down constantly. So that's the thing. And The Last Guardian, like I said, I just feel like it's a underrated game because, yes, it had frame rate issues and camera issues, but the frame rate seems to be fixed on PS5. And even though the camera could be annoying, the game I call an emotional masterpiece because the game there's only a couple games that have made me cry. And The Last Guardian, I absolutely lost it at the end. The game is just such an emotional game. I cried like a baby at the end. I feel like it's a game where if you don't cry, you must not have a soul, honestly. You feel such a connection with the main character that you're playing as, the boy, and the character that you're with, Trico, the giant dog, bird, cat, whatever he's supposed to be, companion that you're with. And I think a lot of it, too, is because I absolutely love Dodds personally. I love Dodds a lot. And so that really got to me. And because of that, it's a game I've wanted, because it has such an emotional impact and on me, it's something I want to play again. And so that's what I've started playing and plan on hopping on here and streaming. And I'm going to do that on YouTube. Even though the first part I started on Twitch, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the playthrough tonight and the next few days or however long it takes me on YouTube for that game, because it's just a game I've been wanting to get back to. But that's basically it for the stream. I'm just going to go back to some of the comments here real quick that I see here in the chat, which is, no, I don't play Fortnite or Call of Duty. I'm not big into shooting games in general. I hate first-person view. First-person view just is something that confuses the heck out of me. Like when I'm playing a first-person view, I'll end up falling off of like cliffs and stuff and not know where I'm going and stuff. I hate first-person view. It's just how I am, and I feel like first-person shooters all play the same. That's the other thing. I do play a lot of games overall. Like I said, Nintendo and Sony, which is kind of how I came up with my name. My favorite video game franchise of all time, just to give a little bit of background here before I close, my favorite video game franchise of all time is The Legend of Zelda. My second favorite video game franchise of all time is Ratchet and Clank. My third favorite franchise of all time, I'd say, is probably Tony Hawk. My fourth favorite is probably the Batman Arkham games. As several of them are in like my top 10 games of all time list. And then my top 5, if I wanted to do a top 5. But top 5, my fifth favorite franchise is probably Donkey Kong. I've always felt like Donkey Kong is an underrated franchise. And the reason I say that is, yes, it's popular, but it's not as popular as, say, like Mario. And I honestly feel like both Zelda and Donkey Kong, I feel like, are superior franchises to Mario. So that's kind of my top 5 there. So yeah, I'm not big into shooting games. So Fortnite, Call of Duty, no, I've never really played that before. And just they're not my type of games. The closest I've gotten to really enjoying a shooter is Splatoon 2 on the Switch. And that's because it's third person, not first person. And secondly, it's so much different than your typical shooter. Not just because it's like paintball, but the way you get around is so much different. The fact that you can, the fact that, yeah, you're not just walking or running to get around, you're like literally swimming your own ink to get around type of thing. So it just plays so much different than your typical shooter. And I think that's why I like Splatoon a lot, as well as the fact that its soundtrack is also very unique and different. Or yeah, unique is different, but yeah, very unique and just really good. But yeah, that's kind of my video. Kind of rambled on for about 20 minutes longer than I was planning on. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on PlayStation 5 so far in about the 2 weeks that it's been out and I've had it. Yeah, I do plan on later on streaming on YouTube. It's gotten a little later than I was hoping it would be, but it's still not too late. So yeah, I do think I'll hop on and play more of The Last Guardian, because that's kind of the game I'm wanting to play right now. I'm kind of trying to focus on, I have a lot of games as always, but I'm trying to focus on The Last Guardian, and even though it's a PS4 game, because it had been a while, and I'm trying to focus on Age of Calamity on the Switch. I would stream Switch games and stuff, but I don't actually have like a capture device or anything like that. The only thing I really stream with is the system itself, which is, of course, easy to do on PS4/PS5 since it's like built in there. And all you need is the PlayStation Cam, which I have. Oh, and that's the one last little tidbit here. Before I do really close, is with the system that I thought of is the camera I like a lot with PlayStation 5 compared to 4. And the reason, it's a simple thing, but it's still nice, is that PlayStation 4 or even the PlayStation 3, PlayStation I think they called it back then instead of like a camera, but same thing basically. Couldn't like stream then though, it was more for other things. But with that, there was with the PlayStation, with those cameras basically, it didn't have like a way to connect it to the TV or anything like that. And so it was hard to position the camera at like the right angle where when I'm on the couch and playing, where the camera isn't either too far to the left, too far to the right, too low, too high, that type of thing. Where with the PlayStation 5 camera, they have a clip on the camera where you can basically easily connect it to the top of your TV. And that's the other thing, is because TVs are so thin now, it's not like with the other camera you could put it on top because it would just fall off, obviously. But because it has like a clip on the PlayStation 5 camera now, it's easy to just put it like in the middle of the TV, and then bam, the camera's like right on you now, and you're not having to worry about moving the camera left and right or up and down, all that too much. So it's a lot easier position, as well as with streaming on PlayStation 5. One thing I've noticed too that I like better than PS4 that I'd say is an improvement is on PlayStation 4, basically, when you would stream, you would have almost like when you're watching a widescreen movie or something, you'd have like black bars on like kind of like the sides and top and stuff, and it just kind of made your screen smaller in a sense. Where PlayStation 5, on the other hand, the only thing that it really shows when you're streaming and you have your camera on and whatnot is it'll show like a little bubble of you, and you can place that like either in the corners on like the bottom corner on either side of your TV, or kind of in the middle part on your left or middle part on your right, that kind of thing. So I like the fact that it doesn't take up as much of your screen as the PlayStation 4 camera did. The one bad thing about that a little bit, though, is that depending on what you're playing and where different things are, like on a map or options or whatever, is depending on where you put that, it might get in your way a little bit, where like it's covering up something so you can't quite read what you're trying to read or look at or whatever. But still, I think that's a lot better to have just that little bit, and instead of having like these bars that kind of make your screen almost smaller in a sense. So that's a nice improvement. And by the way, I play on a 55-inch 4K Samsung KS8000 TV that I got in 2016. I'd like to get an OLED, but I worry about burn-in, and also they're still pretty expensive. I don't really want to spend more than like $1,000 on TV, and also I don't typically buy TVs that often. I've had basically 3 TVs in my lifetime. So that's the thing, burn-in price. But yeah, anyway, right now I've been on the KS8000 for about 4 years. Not sure when I'll upgrade to TV. It's a good TV. It's just I've seen OLEDs, and OLEDs like make all of the TVs seem like crap in comparison from what I've seen in terms of picture quality, which is why I'd like to get one, but the price is just too high. But yeah, I'm gonna close this down. But before I do here, real quick, I'm gonna type something in real quick. So I'm about to push enter on that just to let you guys know when I do plan on streaming here tonight for a little bit, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. Probably 2 hours is the most I'll stream tonight because it is already getting late. But yeah, that info I'm about to put there. Besides The Last Guardian, though, I'll be trying to stream as much as I can. Sometimes it might be PlayStation 5 games. Sometimes it might be a PlayStation 4 game on PlayStation 5, just because I do have a backlog of games as always. Plus, I do enjoy replaying some games at times, which is kind of what I'm doing right now in a sense. But yeah, anyway, this video has went on too long. Just let you guys know the time there that I plan on streaming, and I hope to see you guys when I do that stream here in a little bit. But for now, this is going to be the end of the video. Thanks for tuning in. If you subscribed, thank you as well. If you want to subscribe, as always, you can. Leave comments in the video. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys later.